Good day, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of our podcast, Breaking Boundaries. I am your host, Talumba Katawala, National Content and Public Affairs Manager for Mozambique. I hope you're getting used to hearing my voice now. And on today's episode, we welcome Edgar Longui, General Manager of the Maputo Operating Center in Mozambique. And guess what? Edgar is my boss. Finally, it's my turn to interview my boss. Talk about the tables turning, right? So jokes aside, Edgar is someone I find truly inspiring. When he was 7 years old, Edgar and his family had to leave Angola during the war and move to France. From finding his footing away from home and to now leading an operating center of Technip Energies in Mozambique, Edgar's story is about perseverance, passion, and the drive to succeed. Hello, Edgar. How are you today?
Hi, Talumba. I'm good, and thank you for the introduction. I'm very pleased to be a part of the Breaking Boundaries podcast.
That's great. So I don't know where we should start because I know you quite well. We spent a lot of time working together in the last 2 years, and you are essentially my boss. But I've heard a few things. You've alluded to a few things about your career and your life, but this is a really great opportunity for me to get to know you better. So how are you feeling? How are you?
Well, I'm happy, Talumba, that you don't know everything yet. Let's go for it.
Well, that's true. That's true. There's always a little bit of mystery to keep things interesting. So let's start from the beginning. Where does your story essentially start? What is your origin story?
Okay, cool. So I was born in Angola, as you mentioned at the beginning. So with my family, we moved to France when I was 7 years old. So we came as refugees. So then I started studying in France and all the way through until the engineering school. So this is the way it started. And after a few years after my graduation, I started working abroad.
Wow, that must have been really difficult for you and your family. I mean, leaving your country, not because you want to, but out of a necessity, and coming to a new country amidst, that situation, that's not ideal. Did it disturb you? What was your first memory of France?
So I don't think it has disturbed me, but for sure I have some good memories. So first of all, I had that impression that it was very cold, coming from a more tropical country, as you may imagine. But for sure, I mean, on the way these experiences and the one I had in France have impacted me. It has definitely shaped the way I am today, the person I am as a manager or as a leader. And when I think about it, I mean, of course, it was challenging at the beginning, but you don't have that same perspective of the world and the things that are surrounding you when you are seven and when you get a bit older and start a career abroad, as it has been my case.
Well, speaking of careers, did you did your parents or your siblings also work in similar fields? Were there some kind of influence behind your choice to embark in engineering?
So no, I am the only and first engineer in my family up to now. So my father was a tailor. My mom was a nurse, but all the values related to hardworking, perseverance, positivity in the midst of sometimes desperations have been transmitted to me. I would say through my family. And yeah, so this is about that.
Oh, so knowing you, what I know from the last 2 years of getting to know each other, I know that you're someone that likes to plan a lot and to predict things. That's your engineering nature, I would say. But did you have a plan B in case your engineering career didn't work out?
Well, there were no B plan at all. There were no B plan. There were no C, D, E plan. I mean, I had only one plan for sure, which was, but okay. mate, you don't have any option. You need to make it work, right? So do what it takes and put the right level of efforts to reach the goal and make it tangible. So I have always been very interested in big projects, complex constructions, and all these big things that surround us. So naturally the engineering way came to me. So I will say that this is the way I went through. Even though after the engineering school I went for a business school, but it was very important for me to start with a technical background, really to understand things and the way it is designed and why we make such technological decisions. So yeah, engineering came naturally to me on the basis of these elements.
Okay, and then somehow you ended up working at Technip Energies. How did that happen? Since that was so long ago, did you see the job posting on a newspaper?
Come on, what do you mean so long ago? Nearly 10 years ago is not that long for sure. It was some time ago, but not that much I can tell. So I think I had my CV through the different database. So I did not send it on paper format, as you may think. We had already internet, as I was mentioning, so which was just easing my life. Even though it was very slow, but coming back to that, in fact, I knew Technip Energies because I was working in La Défense, and the tour I was working nearby Technip Energy. So this is how I came to know about the company and the type of projects that were being delivered by the company. And somehow I've been contacted by the HR department, and it was for a Prelude FLNG project.
Wow, that's a huge project. I mean, I've heard so much already about this project within Technip Energies. How was it integrating into the team, and immediately having such a huge opportunity on such a historical project?
Yes, definitely. Prelude and was a very big project. So was in South Korea, but I was already spending a lot of time in Asia at the time because on my previous company I was working in also in China and India. So started as a lead planning engineer. I would say that that opportunity just came at the right time and was the right opportunity in terms of evolution and how I was seeing my career for the next steps. So it was a very big project, new people, a totally different environment from what I was used to. And of course, we had some technical challenges, but a lot of excitement definitely on my side, and we made it work.
And how have these experiences in multicultural environments and settings, how has this impacted you as a manager and as a team player?
So I would say in different manners, of course, but the most important one is about the capacity to observe and to listen. I think this is the first thing I try to implement when starting a new job or starting within a new team. There is always, the easy part, which is about, okay, maybe we should change these things or we should do that differently. But before coming to that stage, you need to understand your environment. Even though you might come with a preconceived ideas. So for the case in Mozambique, for instance, one of the first thing we did was about interviewing the different employees of the company. In fact, all of them,
I
just
remember.
to understand. was yeah was a great time, in fact, because it's a
Yeah.
really a way to understand the people, to understand the culture, to understand the challenges that people might face. And I would say maybe at the beginning when you start, it's also maybe easier for the people to somehow open in a certain manner, right? Because right, I mean, it's an opportunity for them also to speak up. So I think this is something that is important, something that I try to keep up. And these are all things that, of course, come from the combination of all that I might have learned in my previous experiences.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think you did a really great job integrating into the Mozambique team at such a difficult time too for all of us. It was amidst the pandemic, and somehow you managed to gain people's trust, and everyone became accountable to work even from a distance. And those, building trust, obviously, it's absolutely imperative to take your team to the next step. And so speaking of the next steps, you are working in Korea in South Korea in a major project, and then somehow you ended up in Australia doing business development. And I'm just trying to think, as someone with a technical background, you've just been immersed in the energy sector. Here you are in a big project, your career is sort of picking up, and now you're changing your role and into something that's I wouldn't naturally assume that you would want to do. And if you could advise someone who's trying to make that change from a technical background into a more business oriented or business development oriented type of field, how would you guide somebody through that process?
So more generally, I will say that there are always expectations, right? That you need to understand, um, but you bring also your own touch in every jobs you do. So it's not just about what is expected from you, but it's also about what you bring, and then how you combine these both part. I know it's a bit cliche, but it's important to have that in mind, even though it's quite generic.
Mm,
Then after coming to going from project engineering to business development, there is obviously a need of different skill sets, but I believe that they can be complementary, and you can work on that duality. So the transition might not appear as smooth,
mm,
but when you think about it, I come from a project background, then move to a business development position, then back again to a more operational role. So with the management of an operating center. So in my view, in the business development, you sell your capacity and our capacity to deliver projects as a company, technology or expertise. So, and one of our core business is obviously about project management. So there is a bridge, in fact, right? So, and I would say that if there is not an obvious bridge, create that bridge, right?
yeah.
I mean, there is nothing more important that, in fact, your willingness to want to make that work and succeed. And of course, then it comes to are you comfortable to talk with a client in client-facing situations, and how do you feel while presenting and representing the company and or strategy? So that's what I will put into
But when you say it like that, it all seems so attainable and so easy to do, because I know that plenty of people struggle with switching up and or either even recognizing the right moment or the right opportunities to make that
yeah.
change. Yeah, and when I think about your life and your trajectory, it's as if, it's all seems about constant and even sudden change, moving to from Angola to France, then moving to different countries to kick off your career. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling with change? What qualities do you think are needed to adapt or to be resilient towards change?
Right. So for sure, I mean, what's applicable to one might not be applicable to another, but being open mind, willing to discover different ways of working or living, questioning yourself. This is something that is quite important and that always been part of, let's say, my own process in adapting to a different situation. And as you said, more importantly, being resilient, right? So you can't
Mm,
know everything at start, right? No one knows. But I mean, how do you react into that situation? So there is of course a portion of risk to that, but I believe it was it. And going out of your comfort zone always helps in getting in terms of experiences. So give it a try, you'll know, and you will always learn from that.
mm. So after all these changes, your next big change was to move to your home continent. But I mean, honestly, I know you had at some point you had kids and you moved around with your family. So in my thought, I would think you want to come back home to France and settle down and be, just a regular working dad, but somehow you ended up in Mozambique instead of Angola?
Right. So I got the opportunity from the group to develop our operating center in Maputo. So it is and it was a very exciting challenge with a young team, a young office just starting up. But I would say that was mainly about, let's say, four streams. So the first one was more operational, with the supports to our operations and at the moment Coral FLNG project. So this is key. Uh, Secondly, more strategic, I would say, with the development and implementation of our local business plan to develop and sustain the office in line with the group strategy. So that's the second point. Third point, the management of our local partner, as we have a joint venture locally with the ENOC, and of course the management of the operating center and the team that is associated to. So these are the four elements that needs to be followed on a day-to-day basis, I will say. And obviously, I had also to consider a lot of different aspects as I have to move with my wife, who has always been very supportive over the years and find the right balance for three kids and the entire family in adapting again in a new place, a new culture, and a new work, even though it was not the first time we were moving all together.
What cultural lessons have you taken from each place that you worked at, that sort of help you or influence your day-to-day life and how you transmit this the positive forward-thinking energy in the office in Mozambique?
That's a good one. Um, so I would say from Asia and particularly from South Korea, I really observed that they have that great capacity and way of working together, right? The group always comes first. There might be disparities, discrepancies within the team, but when it comes to deliver, it's together, right? It's one group, one team. So that's something that I keep from there. In Australia, I was really impressed with the capacity that my colleagues had to really draw a strong line between the work and the private and personal life, right? So when it's work, so everyone's deliver, do the work, is focused. But when it's time to get out of the work, it's out of the work, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's something that is very very important. And then I really appreciated observing and learning from that. And these are things that I try to implement also here in Mozambique, and that we try and we are continuously trying to implement. And of course, from France, I mean, we really really have a very very strong engineering culture and discipline, and it's fundamental in the execution of our day-to-day duties. So that's something I also try to bring here at the office. So it's these experiences from these different countries, from Australia to South Korea, even China or India, and of course France, that I try to combine here in Mozambique in order to deliver with the team, to bring experience to the team and to open up the team to different things.
Yeah, and it's coincidental that our office right now has people from all of these places that you've mentioned. Well, except for Australia, other than you, right? But I think we have a little
Yeah.
bit of everywhere, like a true melting pot of cultures right now, in the office. So I mentioned before that, when you arrived, it was really important for us to have this kind of representation in a leadership position and someone who has achieved so much in such an early age. So you are in a really key leadership position right now, and you're influencing the future engineers of not only Mozambique, but I mean the world. What does breaking boundaries together to engineer a sustainable future mean to you?
Um, so I would say that one word, in fact, that comes in mind is about passion, right? When I think about what you're mentioning, I think you need to be passionate about what you do. You need to understand what you do and the impact of what you do, right? You need to understand why you do things a certain way. You really need to embrace all these aspects together. That's more universal, and it's not just limited to the company or specific projects. It's about what we want to leave behind and how we want to leave this planet for the next generations. So passion is really key, and that drives the way I see things. I do believe that when you have that passion, then it brings a strong purpose. And this is about engineering and project management also. So to get back to what I mentioned at the beginning, big projects, complex constructions, everything is engineered. So, and everything is about, I think, that passion.
I knew you would somehow find a way to make it about engineering. And yeah, I'm so happy that you found your passion. And I think a lot of people struggle to find theirs. I mean, were there situations in your life that you were not so smooth? Did you struggle ever?
Well, I think, I mean, definitely yes. I mean, I don't think there is many people who don't struggle. I think it's part of the learning process. I mean, you succeed and sometimes you don't, but that's okay. In fact, what I prefer to focus on these experiences is what they brought to me, whether the experience was smooth or not. At the end of the day, I mean, you learn from both situations and you implement what works. So I think this is more the looking at the positive side of this. There is always two sides in the stories. That's the way I prefer to look at all these challenges, whether they were smooth or not.
Great. That's, you know what? You always seem to twist things around to make it, I like this answer. I like it a lot. It's more about the lesson learned rather than the mistakes themselves. So we have a signature question here in the podcast. I'm sure since you've heard the previous episode, you already know what's coming. But what is the biggest boundary you have broken in your life, professionally or personally? What comfort zone have you stepped out of, and how has that impacted your life or the lives of the people around you?
All right, so I'll try to give you a not a generic answer because you don't like them. um, but I mean, I would say, I mean, if you look globally, I mean, to the story, moved from Angola to France and then started working abroad. You know, there is always these challenges about adapting to diverse and different environments, about being out of your comfort zone, right? So these have been, let's say, continuous for me, all these cultural differences, shock that I might have faced over the last 30 years of my life. So this is something that is important. But when I look at it, it's not really what I want to remember. What is important for me about breaking boundaries is about, I mean, all these people that have um, helped me, that I made through my life, my career, personal or professional, and that have been game changers to me. Right? They inspired me. They gave me confidence. They trusted me, and it thanks to that combination of people all around the world where I have worked or where I have not even worked, that I am the person I am today. So I'm ready. I'm ready to break boundaries. I'm ready to face challenges, and that's what come to mind when I think about breaking boundaries. It's about the people that surround you, the ones that helps and continue to help you.
Wow, that's great. That's great. I can definitely relate to that because I mean, in the last 2 years, there's been so many different challenges in my professional and personal life, and I definitely remember the many different conversations we've had about the future for the office in Mozambique, for the engineers that are part of our team, for myself, and you have helped me many times figure very complicated, complex situations in my professional career. And I think I've grown so much out of your own experiences as well. And there's so many different things that you mentioned that about people and how important those people are, the ones that open doors for you, the ones that show you the doors that you don't seem to see. Well, so that brings us to the end of the episode, Edgar. Thank you so much. It was so great to have this opportunity to ask you the questions. And I think one of the things that you said that I will take away from this episode is about passion, figure out what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I guess things will clear up and you'll find your purpose. Thank you once again. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, that you're joyful, happy, and fulfilled.